Hi, I'm Phil Crocker and welcome to our fourth video on playing better Blitz. Today we're going to look at how we can practice some basic checkmates. Just as a recap, so far we've looked at an introductory video, how we set up the system, how and when we can pre-move, and all this has been focused on saving time, playing as quickly as possible. And today we're going to be looking at how we can practice our basic checkmates, in particular king and queen against king and rook and king against king. So let's dive straight in. And firstly, I've said it's easy to fail to win if you can't checkmate quickly. So I would consider myself an established player, but I've been playing for years and years and years without a particularly efficient way of delivering checkmate with king and queen against king, and certainly not with the rook in any kind of quick way. I've always got by-in over the board situations. It's rare that you need to complete the checkmates really quickly, but in online Blitz it really does happen quite often that you need to complete these checkmates in a matter of seconds. So it makes sense to have a good technique worked out for this. Rook and king against rook doesn't happen quite as often as with the queen, but certainly from rook against rook endings, you can sometimes have one rook gives itself up for a pawn, and then you've got a checkmate with the rook and king. I think other checkmates like bishop and knight against king, you can learn them if you want, but the cost benefit in terms of what else you might be doing with your time is not very favourable for doing that. I think it's worth practicing these checkmates. I'll show you where you can do that on Lichess. I think the chess.com version is particularly good for doing this. So even if you play on Lichess, you might want to do the practice on chess.com. So let's dive into how you do the checkmate with the queen. So we're not looking for whatever the computer considers the smallest number of moves, absolutely not. We're just looking at a technique which requires very little thought. It's completely systematic. We can play it on autopilot in a fraction of a second. And the way I'll describe here is to first of all use your queen to box in the enemy king, and then make that box progressively smaller by moving your queen to keep a knight's distance away from the enemy king. Once you've got it basically in a corner and with just two squares to move between to avoid stalemate, then we can bring our king in. We can make use of pre-moves to do that quickly, and then we can deliver checkmate. So we will look at an example of that in a second, but firstly just to show the diagrams. So we're driving the king away from our own king here for simplicity, and white to move would play queen to c3. Let's suppose the black king moves to f5. We can then move the white queen to d4. Let's say the black king moves to e6. We can move our queen to c5. So we're keeping a knight's distance away, and the black king is forced to eventually move into a corner. And that will then look something like this. We give the two squares for the black king to move. If you are black and you're trying to survive against an opponent who has just a few seconds, then make sure you try and pre-move the king to g8 to h8 and so on. And that could make all the difference. In the meantime, white can pre-move the king in on a line something close to what we've shown on the diagram there, and eventually deliver a checkmate. Let's have a look at doing that in practice. And I will just bring the Lichess on here. You can look at learn and then practice, and you can see piece checkmates. It's coloured green because I've done all 6 of those, so you can practice within there. I think the chess.com one is particularly good, so let's go to that one. In this you can go to learn, endgames, and then checkmates. And we're first of all going to look at queen mate, and this enables you to do 5 checkmates in a row and compare your best time to your own. So my best is 32.9 seconds. Somebody here globally has done it in 6.3 seconds, which seems difficult to believe. I don't think I'll be doing that, but let's see what we can do here. We click start and off we go. So the black king is already trapped, so we can just bring our king in and deliver checkmate. And here we need to first of all box the black king in, keep a knight's move away, bring it into the corner there, and then we just bring our king round and we can deliver checkmate. So here we are a knight's move away, so let's just move our king for simplicity. Let's keep a knight's move away, knight's move away again, and checkmated in the corner. So here we are a knight's move away, let's just move the king. We similarly just drive this back, we can pre-move the king in, and then this is checkmate. Here we need to actually get the queen first of all, then we can cut the king off. Let's keep it a nice distance away, keep it nice and simple, drive it back, shadow the king's movements, drop it in the corner. Ooh, I was trying to pre-move that, wasn't quite as fast as it might have been, and then this is checkmate. So 1 minute, 7 seconds, not so bad, right? I think without the explanations I could probably have gone a little bit quicker there. But if you do practice this a few times, then you can get quite fast at it and you can familiarise yourself with the technique. That's the main thing. So let's go back to the slides and let's move on to the checkmate with a rook. So this is a little bit similar in that we're also trying to box in the enemy king, this time with a rook, but unfortunately the enemy king can approach our rook, so we need to keep our own king close to our own rook so we can protect it. Other than that, we're trying to box in the enemy king in a progressively smaller box again, and our first choice of move should be to make that box smaller. If that's not possible, then we should move our king closer to the enemy king, and if that's also not possible, then we should just move our king somewhere in the neighbourhood, and that will create a zugzwang, so the enemy king has to move, and then we can progress by making that box smaller again. So let's look at an example of how that's done in practice by bringing up the chess.com again. And here, let's go to Learn, Endgames, Checkmates, Rookmate, and you can see here, in fact it's the same person globally, this time they've done it in 10 seconds for the 5 checkmates. I've managed to do it in 1 minute and 8 seconds in the past. Let's see how quick we are now. Let's press start. Right, so we can put the king in a small box, we can bring our king closer, we can make that box smaller, bring our king closer, make that box smaller, that's as small as it needs to be, and that is checkmate. So here we can just make the box small very straight away and checkmate. Here we've got a little bit more work to do. Let's make a box here, say, make a box there, smaller, that's even smaller again, move our king closer, move our king, that's as small as the box needs to be, and that's checkmate. So here we can perhaps drive the king back first, and we can make that box smaller, we can bring our king in, we can make that box smaller, even smaller, bring our king in, move our king again, make the box smaller, make the box even smaller, bring our king in, move our king in again, make the box as small as it needs to be, and then just one zigzag move and checkmate. So here we could bring our king in and bring our king again, make the box smaller, bring our king, move our king, make the box smaller, make the box even smaller, bring our king in, make a smaller box, bring our king in, bring our king again, make the box as small as it needs to be, move our king in, and that is checkmate. So we did that in 1 minute 43 seconds, not so bad, and hopefully you can see the technique there, and it's definitely worth doing this kind of practicing. So let's just finish off. If you have any questions, please post them, any comments. If you like the video, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel maybe, and if you really like the topics we're covering, you might consider buying my book Better Chess Faster, which you can find on Amazon. So thanks for watching, and hopefully see you for the next video.